All right, welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. We're honored to have as guest once again the President of the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, Mr. Isagani Serrano, this time to tackle the issue of climate change implications on the ASEAN region. Mr. Serrano has been the acting president of the PRRM since August 2008, and he has also been a co-convener of Social Watch Philippines, Philippine Greens, Earth Day Network Philippines. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome back to the program.
Good afternoon, and it's an honor and my pleasure to be here.
Okay. Sir, so we're talking about climate change now and the implications on the ASEAN region. Tell us more about this.
Well, if you have a movement, a free movement of goods and services, and this year you're talking ASEAN 2015 as a trading scheme, a trading system. Alam naman natin, the longer a good or a service travels, the more carbon footprint it has.
Okay.
So yun yung implication. Unless every movement is powered by renewable energy, then that's carbon neutral, basically. So you're not producing as much CO2 as when you are fossil intensive. So ganun. Kaya kailangan, siguro ASEAN should really mind how the power that would be generating the whole trading system in this sub-region. So yun yung lang kailangan pag-usapan. Now, since ASEAN member countries are committed to curbing emissions in this region, we want to see the plan exactly how that's going to happen. Although ASEAN as a whole and individually, all member countries we are under emitters, and we have no obligation under the Climate Convention to do mitigation, to reduce our emissions level. But it's our own responsibility and it's our own lookout to make sure that we are not adding up to the problem of destabilization of the climate system globally.
So you're saying because of the infrastructure that's going to be going on in the ASEAN region, we're starting to develop and everything, baka ang sinasabi nyo, mas tumaas pa yung ating carbon footprint than the other countries?
Siyempre, pag nag-increase ng mga built-up, ibig sabihin road infrastructure, iba't iba pang infrastructure, tataas yung emission level mo. In fact, kahit na agriculture nga lang, and in the way you do your agriculture, you'll either be increasing your emissions or you're reducing it. If you intensify your agriculture through chemical, then you increase your emissions. If you do organic, then you'll have less. So depende kung anong choices ang ginagawa, ang pinipili mo to do whatever it is you're doing, and then makikita natin kung saan papunta yan. Now, what we would be proposing for the ASEAN member countries is to come up with an increasing mix in the energy system to shift to a more sustainable energy system.
Okay.
And that would mean from now, if you are starting from a baseline of high fossil intensive type of economy, and then over time you increase the share of renewable in the energy mix. So that means if you can abstain, for example, from building a new coal plant, and you can find a substitute in terms of the solar, a combination of solar and wind, and then come up with an equivalent megawatt for that, then go for it.
Okay.
And then over time, then the replacement will give us a carbon neutral result, and we would not have burden an already destabilized climate system with additional greenhouse gas inventory. So yun ang mga suggestions namin. And the earlier we do that, the better. Unless gusto nyo intensify ng mga leaders natin to intensify production here and consumption in the whole of ASEAN, and then match the level of, say, greenhouse gas productions as China is doing now. In the case of the country, the Philippines is probably doing around mga average natin siguro 1.5 to 2 tons per capita. Ganyan ang itsura natin. It's almost equivalent to our income levels on average. So ganun ang nagiging contribution ng Pilipinas. Under-emitter pa rin tayo, but still early, it behooves us to really shift to something more sustainable, whether the whole of development path or just in a particular sector like energy and infrastructure.
But of course, sir, yung pong inyong mga suggestions, it cannot be done really in the near future. So what will be the implications?
Well, siyempre, mag-i-increase yan kung lalo ito ang trading system itong pinag-uusapan natin. Before we can shift to that more sustainable production and consumption modality that is more sustainable, we will have to go through a period of intensification. Even while we are this early doing already the kind of adjustment that's required of us. So, mag-i-increase pa rin yan. Kaya lang, the earlier we do it, the better. And siguro every little helps naman, di ba?
Yes po.
So, if you are doing something already with our agriculture system, instead of parang putting in more chemical in order to intensify our production doon, and farmlands na contaminate, malalasan, ganyan. E di mag-abstain ka na dyan. Di ba? Abstention ang kailangan mo. Tapos, and then intensify it through organic means. And that will help a lot.
Just for the meantime na wala
For the
po
meantime,
yung...
hindi lang in the long run, kahit na ngayon ginagawa mo yun. Kahit wala pang impact, alam mo in the long run.
Hindi ba mas mahal, sir, kung mag-shift tayo sa renewable energy and doing all these things?
Eh, yun ang kino-complain ng iba. At sa akin naman, simula lang yun eh. Ang setup cost ng solar, siyempre mas mataas because nagsisimula. Eh, subukan mong gawin lahat ng public building sa Pilipinas, gawin mong
Solar.
may plato, solar.
Or ano,
At least, yun kasi ang kaya mo i-control. Mahirap pakialaman ng private sector. But for example, ganun ang gawin mo. Lahat ng public school buildings, saka yung munisipyo na solar na yan. Pag hindi bumagsak ang presyo niyan, and then each of us individually can make a decision on whether to go solar. O kahit combination lang, nakakabit ka pa rin sa grid at tapos meron kang at least na backup na kamukha noon. And somehow, this gives you already a choice, a real choice to make a shift. So, yun lang yung nakuha ko pa. But if you don't do it now, then talagang ganyan na mangyayari. Maghihintayan, tatagal at tatagal. And the more delay you have, the more problem we have. Alam naman natin, marami mga ASEAN member countries, especially the Philippines, particularly the Philippines, is really in the typhoon highway.
Yes.
So, pag nag-intensify yung extreme weather events, tapos kahit sabihin mo hindi climate change, yan, climate variability lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, and you get weather extremes unheard of before, like yung Yolanda experience natin.
yes.
Eh kung suppose that's Yolanda is our benchmark of what's coming our way in the future, tagilid tayo lalo niyan. So, ang preparation natin should be benchmark against Yolanda.
But I think that's the benchmark now, yung Yolanda na po ng ASEAN. Yes.
Ngayon, prepared ka ba sa ganyan? Na isang one fell swoop, wawa sa akin yung buong naitayo mo na. Infrastructure and everything, yung cost sa human life, and property, livelihoods, jobs, etc. etc. Laki ng problema. So kaya nga, the earlier na pagplanuhan niya ng buong ASEAN and then come up with really a realistic but strategic plan to deal with that para maaga pa nakahanda na tayo.
So, hindi talaga tayo handa. Wala pa rin tayong measures, wala pa rin po tayong programs or...
May iba't ibang level. Sabi ko nga, ang preparedness is a relative thing. But depende kung ano talagang pinag-uukulan mo sa preparation. Kung halimbawa, yung race to the bottom lang, pababaan lang ng presyo, i-menos mo yung labor, i-cheapen mo ang labor, i-cheapen mo yung material throughputs, tapos wasakin mo ng wasakin ang environment mo. Kasi discounting labor and discounting raw material throughputs means minemenos mo sila at saka sinisira mo environment, tapos sa labor, nagkukos ka ng social unrest. So, ang problema, in the long run, babalik din sa iyo yan. So, the better that you do something about this now. Magbigay ka ng decent wage, tapos yung everything that you draw from the environment, palitan mo. I-restore mo.
Sir, kanina you mentioned about the typhoons na dumadating sa atin. What can you say about po those areas that has been stricken by calamities this past few days? What are needed, especially now that 2015 is just around the corner? As we all know, Yolanda area is still not recovered that much yet. So what are
Sabi
the
naman ni
things needed?
Secretary Ping, we are at least comparable in terms of responses doon sa equivalent level of disaster and tragedy that we went through. But still, pagka pinigurahan mo yung nangyayari from the point of view of the victim, pumunta ka doon sa lugar ng mga Yolanda zone, sa Giwan, sa iba't ibang areas, talagang napakahirap eh. And then you'll be amazed at how people are living their lives in the everyday. Talagang mahirap. Ngayon nakita ko, napunta ako sa Hyogo and then I've seen that exhibition na pinanggalingan ng so-called Build Back Better tagline, yung Hyogo Framework of Action. Isinamulate sa amin lights and sounds, lahat, everything, yung kung anong disaster na nangyari noon sa Hyogo, sa Kobe, all that. But kitang-kita mo yung, from a baseline of total disaster, tapos ano itsura ng year 1, ano itsura ng year 2, ano itsura ng year 3, ano itsura ng year 4, ano itsura ng year 5. Pagdating mo pa lang doon sa year 3, halos hindi mo na makita yung baseline ang itsura. Eh di nung pagdating ng year 5, parang walang nangyari. So this is something that probably we should really consider.
Okay. And lastly, sir, what can you say about the development needed in calamity-stricken communities in the Philippines, in the ASEAN region? Tapos, are there new factors that should be considered in this for the ASEAN integration?
Palagay ko yung disaster preparedness ng ASEAN, dapat talagang gumawa ng... Meron na namang ginagawang disaster plan kasi may ASEAN Center for Disaster Preparedness or something. So, just like there are other centers for biodiversity, tapos inatupag naman yung climate. So all these things can really help. Ngayon, kung ano yung laman ng mga yon, ng mga pinapaplano nila, hindi pa maliwanag sa akin. But what I think is, at least in the process-wise, they should consult as many, especially those who are involved in climate advocacies and disaster response groups, citizens movements that are involved in this, para yung mga plano na yan mas nakalapat siguro sa mga realities and reality especially of local communities who are at the front line of whatever tragedy is coming our way. So yun lang. Yun ang nakikita kong